All right, welcome everyone to our December TUG event for the Marketing and Market Research Tableau user group. Today, we have a couple of presentations that we're looking forward to. For that, we'll reintroduce you if you haven't met us before. Have a couple of announcements. Take some time to meet a community member or two. And then we'll get into our topics for today, which are, first up, we have Andrew, who's going to talk about building a semantic layer for survey data, looking at the relationships and some of the newer features that have come into Tableau recently. And then Sarah will show us one of the newer Viz extensions, Tableau Tables, which is, it allows us to do some things that have been asked for, and your stakeholders may ask for a lot, in order to, kind of like a stepping stone into getting into the more advanced visualizations, but doing it in a pretty way. So that's our agenda for today, and then we'll have some networking and a swag giveaway at the end. So stick around for that if you're interested in a chance to win some swag. So just a quick refresher for those of you who may not have met us before. So I'm Josh Wilson. I'm in Chicago. I'm an independent consultant. I do market research analytics, including things like segmentation and predictive modeling, as well as plenty of survey data analysis in Tableau. And we also have Sharon is here.
Hi, everyone. Sharon here from San Jose, California. I, too, am an analyst and have a data analytics practice. I do both survey data analysis and reporting, as well as marketing data analytics in support of some of the Silicon Valley's tech companies. Please reach out if you want to talk. Happy to be here.
And Sarah is here as well, obviously.
Great. Yeah. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Pallett. I live in Los Angeles, California. I'm an analytics consultant with Argano. We are a digital global consultancy. And prior to getting into data analytics, I was in advertising and marketing. So that's my background. And anything marketing, market research related is near and dear to my heart. So happy to be here today. And I'll pass it over to Luigi.
Hi there, I'm Luigi. I'm in San Diego, California, and I'm Vice President of Operations for Direct Avenue. We're a linear and connected television media buying agency, and I have analysts working for me, and I'm the primary Tableau dashboard author, creating visualizations and reporting for our clients, and as well as for internal use for all our marketing efforts.
Great. Thanks, guys. Couple of announcements. We have a Slack work group if you'd like to join, where we give you a heads up on upcoming events, and if you have any questions or running into any issues working with survey data or any other marketing or market research data in Tableau, you can post on there, and we can try to help you out. So feel free to join. There's a QR code. Also, let us know if you're interested in presenting at a future meeting. We're always looking for presenters. And if you would like to check out any of our prior events, they are all posted on the DataFam Tableau user group YouTube channel, which maybe one of you guys could post. Maybe Sarah, if you could post that link, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll put the link in.
Perfect. And we have saved the date for Tableau conference. Will be April 15th to the 17th in San Diego once again. And so you can save the date for that. And then if you can also sign up for to be notified when registration opens as well. Yeah, so that's when the next Tableau conference will be. Okay, so we have a section at the beginning of our meetings where we invite anyone who's interested to come off of mute and introduce yourselves and tell us what's your name, where you work, what's your role, and what experience you have with Tableau and with marketing or market research. And then if you care to share, which aspects of data visualization do you excel at, and then are there any areas that you struggle with? Because maybe that can give us some ideas as well for future meetings. So if anyone interested to jump in and say hi.
I can go ahead and start. Hi, everyone. My name is Kat. I work for The Clearing, which is a DC-based consulting firm. I'm a data analyst at the company. I actually work closely with Sarah, who is who I heard about this event from. And yes, so as a data analyst, my job kind of varies using Tableau. I could use it to analyze survey data, event data. We use it for a lot of our financial data and management. So it varies. It's like all of the things. And my experience with Tableau, it's been a couple of years. I want to say about 2 to 3 years that I've been using Tableau. I have very little experience with marketing and market research, which is why I'm here to learn some more. And some aspects of data visualization that I excel at, I think like the CX, like focusing on the user experience and making reports interactive and something that like people want to engage with and feel comfortable engaging with. And what I struggle with is perhaps when the back end stuff breaks. So a lot of like the technical, like data management, like it's something I'm very interested in, but it's just a completely different side of Tableau that I'm still learning to troubleshoot. So yeah, so those are the things that's what I excel at and struggle with when it comes to Tableau. And I'm excited to be here. So thank you all for hosting this.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining. Thanks for introducing yourself. Anyone else?
Sure. My name is Jamie Dragatis. I'm here in northern New Jersey. It's a little rainy right now and foggy. I have a company called Deep Lake Insights. I have over 25 years experience in market research and applying that market research into Tableau. Sometimes it's challenging with SIG testing and all that other fun stuff, but always willing to learn different ways of bringing your traditional tabs into Tableau. So that's me. Thank you. I like the group.
Great. Good to see you, Jamie. Yeah, maybe get some hints today and some tips about doing some of those things in Tableau, or at least setting up the data. Anyone else?
I can go. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jorge Supelano. I live in Montreal. I work for a company called Bus Patrol. It's an American company. We are mostly on the East Coast. What we do is we install cameras in school buses, so we monitor drivers who overtake the bus illegally when the bus is stopped. My role is I'm currently a senior Tableau developer, but I do more than that. I manage the Tableau cloud deployment too. I've been using Tableau for 10 years. It's the first time in this group. Thank you, everyone. I was attracted by the semantic layer session. I'm better at technical things. I wouldn't say struggle, but creativity can be improved and design my dashboards. Yeah, that's me. Thanks. I think we met Sarah during the party, right? Hi, how are you?
We did. It's so great to see you.
Yeah, cool.
Great, thanks, Jorge. Time for another one, if anybody wants to jump in?
I'll go very quickly. Hi, I'm Matt Large, Director of Data at Unidays. I worked with Andrew in a previous life a long time ago. We have been Tableau users for, well, from about 8 years or so as an organization. I have a team that does reporting here. We have a research group as well here. So looking to understand more about how I can better support them with the infrastructure side of Tableau and what we can offer and how we can advise them better. So I wouldn't say I excel at anything and struggle in most areas myself, but that's why I have a team that does most of the good work for me.
Great, thanks, Matt. Anyone else?
I could do a quick intro if you want, Josh. So my name's Colin and I work for myself. So my company's called DataWatch and my role will change on any given day. So the last couple of days I've been the IT manager. I think Monday I was the accountant and occasionally I get to do some Tableau for clients, which is always the good fun. I've been using Tableau since I think about 2016. And previous to that, I was in market research, primarily in the public sector. But a lot of the client work I've done is taking survey data, doing that fun reshaping in tools like Tableau Prep, and putting it into Tableau and creating some insightful slide decks or interactive dashboards. So I think I'm probably quite good on the front end, on the design side, and I've done quite a bit data modeling side, but I've struggled with things like SQL. So I'm actually doing an SQL course at the moment, which is going to take me through Christmas and getting to know that. And I've done some work with Andrew as well. So hi to everyone.
Hey, thanks, Colin. Anyone else? Hearing none, can jump into our first presentation from Andrew, building a semantic building a semantic layer for survey data. Andrew, I will stop sharing and I will turn it over to you.
Cool, thank you. Let me just see how I share my screen. There we go. Okay, hi everyone, my name's Andrew and I'm here today to talk to you about building a semantic layer for survey data. So it's something which is really quite close to my heart. So I'm the founder of Arrowstream and all I do is survey data. So over the last few years, I've really got into the detail of how I can make Tableau work really well with survey data. And so I'm here today to kind of share kind of what I've done really, because I haven't seen much about how to really make this really fly. So hopefully in this next kind of half an hour, 45 minutes, I'm really going to show you the kind of the secrets. I've got a demo to show you as well, which I put on Tableau Public, which I'll send you the link to afterwards. And so you can take all of my tips and tricks and all those little good things. And hopefully what I'm really hoping for is to kind of engage with you guys, because you do survey data as well. I do survey data in this kind of tiny little music room. And I think there's so much possibility here. So if you think you can help, if you think you can improve, then please let's get in touch and let's make things better. So let me just talk through the presentation. My screen seems to have stopped. There we go. So a little bit about me. I've worked in market research since 2009. I've worked for agencies and I've also worked for Decipher, who's known now Forster, and I was their operations director for a few years. I really honed my skills in Tableau when I worked for a market research company called Kinetic, who specialized in animal health and crop protection research. I was brought in as the data visualization guy and then told I was have to use Tableau. I'd never used Tableau before, so I had to learn it pretty quick. And as they are a research agency, they worked a lot with survey data, and so I had to really get my head around it quite quickly. Also, I'm the director of the Association for Survey Computing. It's an association that's been running for 40-something years now. It's based in the UK, but it's really a group of like-minded individuals who like doing stuff with survey data, and we do a conference each year, sometimes two, and I'm heavily involved in making that work as well. And that little picture there's my wife and my 2 dogs, Dexter and Dora, and that was just taken the other day when we put our Christmas tree up. So let's get into the detail. So first of all, I kind of just wanted to kind of set the ground straight. Survey data is hard. And I'm sure most of you will kind of nod and go, yeah, it is. And it's hard for a number of reasons. And whilst I've listed some here, there are many more which I haven't listed. So just to run through a few. So each project is custom. You've got different survey platforms exporting data in different ways. And so sometimes your client will pick a particular way, a particular platform, but sometimes they chop and change, and we need to deal with that. Sometimes they're one-off studies, sometimes they're continuous trackers, sometimes they work with multiple markets, so you have language translations and different ways of asking questions. If you've got a tracker, the questions evolve over time. I mean, there's so many things which change with survey data, and if you talk to kind of seasoned data engineers, they just go, I don't want to touch it, thanks. I was chatting to some guys who were doing some work migrating a company to Snowflake, and the client said, oh yeah, we've got a couple of surveys, and they spent a week kind of migrating the survey data into their Snowflake instance. And they then said it to the client and said, there we go. And they went, that's great. We've got 400 more. So they were like, well, how are we going to do this? And so there's a real kind of problem here with how we actually manage survey data. And what I'm hopefully going to share with you today is a few kind of techniques for making it really work. I know many of you are US based, and so I found this quote which kind of resonated with me and survey data. So there are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say that we know there are some things we do not know, but there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know. So that was by Donald Rumsfeld in 2002. I kind of want to add to that and say with survey data, we have known unknowns. So there's stuff we know about the survey which is just not exported in the survey data, and it drives me mad. And I spend most of my time updating those question helpers or the survey helpers that Steve Wexler kind of introduced to us, just filling in all the extra information about survey data. It's a problem with survey data, and it's just another thing which we have to deal with. So some of the things which are unknown knowns in survey data. So things like if you download the text, the data from SurveyMonkey or any other platform, you don't always get the full question text. You definitely don't get the guidance on how a question was asked. And those things kind of make a difference when you're actually trying to analyze how a question was asked. As Steve Wexler's mentioned before, you get badly coded check all questions. Yeah, Jamie, I see you put skip logic in there. I've missed that one on this one. Things like the order in which questions are asked, which is again very important. And again, if you're messing about with the data, you sometimes lose the order because you just quickly accidentally put it into alphabetical order, and then you've lost the order that it originally came in. So there's all these challenges, and yeah, it's just difficult, and every single one's different, and so we just need to get a better handle on it as a group of survey data analysts. Steve Wexler has progressed huge amounts in helping us kind of make Tableau work better with survey data. It'll be really handy if people could just do a little kind of, yes, I'm familiar with just so in the chat, just for me, just to understand where we all are. So if you wouldn't mind just saying, yes, I've used this and I use it on a daily basis, if that would be really useful for me. So the way that Steve did it is that you kind of list all of your responses for every single respondent in this table. And then you have your different filters that you want to have along the top, and your weightings, and then you punch all the questions in here as well. And so you have this kind of single table. Now this is so handy to have, but Tableau's also evolved since this was created. We now have the ability to create relationships in our survey model. And so it made me think, well, how can we make this better? How can we improve it to make our lives easier? And so that's where I come into the kind of the meat of what our presentation is going to be about. So relationships in Tableau allow us to upgrade that from that single table approach. So what I found is that this approach is easier to maintain. You have a lot more of a logical structure. It's easier to extend. It's easier to connect with multiple waves of studies, and it's also more consistent with data warehouse methods such as Kimball. And so if you're talking with data engineers, you can talk the same language quite quickly, and they can help you and support you rather than saying, I need it in this really weird format, which they don't quite understand. So yeah, and the reason I feel I'm kind of an expert in this at the moment is that, as I said, I do a lot of studies, just doing survey and Tableau. I've got one running at the moment. It's got 115,000 respondents in it. It combines 58 surveys. It goes across 15 countries and is in 4 waves. The next wave's coming out next month. So it's massive, and having a single table approach just will not work. And so I'm going to talk through almost the approach which I've used in that study. Okay, so it's going to get a bit techie. So if I lose people, just say something on the chat, and you can pull me out of the weeds. So I'll try not to. So here's how I have the survey data model in my world. The main kind of engine of it, I suppose, is this responses table, where you have 1 row per respondent per response. So hopefully this doesn't feel too kind of abnormal. So often when we're doing the just so method, you kind of pivot the data, so you've got almost this structure. Then there's a respondents table which links to that, and it's linking on the respondent ID. So we join those together, and you have 1 row per respondent. And then there's also what I call the code book. So this is what the all the questions actually mean. So where it's slightly different to the question helper that Steve Wexler talks about, is that I go to the next level of detail as well. So I have the question, like the variable and the value option, all in one table. And so you combine these things together. You do your joins on the respondent ID, and then you do your joins on the variable ID and the value ID to create that model. Now, one of the things which I'm going to refer to is different types of table name. And in the kind of Kimball methodology, we tend to use fact tables. So hopefully this isn't too unusual, but fact tables is where all your facts are, bluntly. And then there's dim tables, so your dimension tables. I always find it funny to call them dim respondents because often you think they are. And then there's the dim codebook. So I'm going to be referring to this terminology because it helps just kind of clarify our thoughts in terms of how we structure the model. So I'm going to step through a couple of what these tables look like, and then I'm going to move over to Excel to show you how it works in the model, which I'm going to show you, and then I'll move over to show you what it looks like in Tableau. So let's look at that responses table. So this is the fact table. We've got our respondent IDs going down here. So I've got 2 in here, and I've only got a couple of questions. So respondent ID 1, respondent ID 2, and then there's the variable IDs. So this is almost what you get in your SPSS file or each column in your data download from SurveyMonkey. So hopefully it's kind of familiar. Then there's a value ID. So here I've got zeros, ones, but I've also got -1s. So personally, I use the notation of -1 if there isn't a lookup. But it's important, if I go back to the previous screen, that there is a lookup. So in the code book, so you've got something to stick to so that you can store everything in the same notation. Again, we'll go through a couple of examples in a bit. Then there's value string. So this contains anything which is almost like open-end text. So it's something that the respondents put in there. And then I separate value float. Because again, when it goes into Tableau, it's easier then to do an average on some numbers, and it separates those out. So that's bluntly the responses, the fact responses, and it's pretty much always the same in every single project I do. Then we've got the DIM codebook. So this is almost the interpreter. This is what that fact responses table really means. So there's the, oops, gone too far. There's the variable and the value ID. So they correspond to what was on the previous page on the responses, and they're the ones we join on. So Q1, 0, Q1, 1. So this is all about voting. So voting in the up-and-coming election, 0 equals no, 1 equals yes. Here, the question ID also is the same as the variable ID. But if we kind of go down a little bit, you'll see that the question ID is different from the variable ID. So this is where this is a multi-select question. So by having this kind of distinction and this almost extra layer within the data, we have question 2, which means when I filter on question 2, I'll get all of the variables for the multi-select question in one go. With the multi-select question, I've then got an extra column called multi-question options. So these are the different options in your question response. And so now there's actually not much difference between a single select question in the data and a multi-select question. They're all just in the same box, but we can filter within the data to find out which is which. So then I've also put a plus many more, because there are also a whole host of other things that you can add into your codebook to make your life easier as the analyst and the dashboard designer. So just a few which I use, but it's certainly not a comprehensive list. So sometimes you want to put the question order in there. Sometimes you want to put the question grouping in there. So these are the demographic questions. These are the opinion questions. This is an NPS style question, and bulk all those things together. Then you've got things like option label group, which I'll show you an example of what this means in a moment, but we use it all the time. But if sometimes you want to just group the top 2 boxes, the bottom 2 boxes, or you want to put the age groups together in one set thing. For me, I don't want to hard code anything in my dashboard, absolutely nothing. I want to put everything into the data layer, because then if someone builds another dashboard on the same data, they'll use the same groupings, they'll use the same logic that I used within my dashboard without having to go into the detail. It also makes it a lot easier to audit. So if you want to get your supervisor or say, this is how I've grouped these questions, asking them to go through and figure out what grouping you've applied in your dashboard is something they're not going to do. To send them a spreadsheet and say, can you look over these? Much easier. So other things which are useful, maybe not always in your dashboard, but the programmer notes. So that's your skip logic. Sometimes the base description, so who actually saw that question. The multi-question options I've actually duplicated, maybe because it's a multi. Then there's the question type. So is it a Likert scale? Is it a multi? Is it conjoint? Is it max diff style? All that information can go in here. Then I finally put one on the bottom called a brand ID. So if you're doing a consumer study where you're looking at different brands, you could put a brand ID against each of the options for each of the brands, and then perhaps just link another DIM brands table, which tell you what all those brands are associated with. So again, it allows for this extensibility within your data framework. So then let's move on to the final table. So this is the respondents table. So this one's really quite simple, really. It's what filters and your weighting. So sometimes you won't need a weighting, but I think it's still important to have this respondents table in there, just for future extensibility. And then your filters could be whatever you like. It depends on the data. They're called dim respondents, silly me. Okay. What I'm going to do now is actually show you what it looks like in Excel, just to give a bit more context. Okay, hopefully we can all see that. It's quite small text. So let's just remove some of the filters I've got on here. So the demo which I'm going to show you today, I've used the Pew Research NPORS data set, which is all about voting intentions in the US. I was hoping to use the 2004 data, but the version they've released doesn't have any multi-select questions, so you're stuck with 2023 data for now. Okay, so if we go back to what our data looks like, so let's do the fact responses one first. This is the massive table of all of the responses data. So I've got my respondent ID, ignore this survey load one for the moment, respondent ID, the variable, and the value. And it's a very long table. So there's 430,000 data points in here. I think there's something like 5,000 respondents in the survey, but only about 400 variables, so not too bad. Then there's the value string. So there's a few kind of items in here. It's actually put all the date stuff in there because it didn't know how to process the date. So they're in there. I don't really do much with that, to be honest. And then there's the value float. So if we look at what's been put in here, let's just get the blank. So there's respondent IDs, which happen to be a number. Let's see if there's anything a bit more useful. Yeah, there's a few numbers in here. So the weighting numbers are in here. So just to give you an idea of what that means. And notice that all of these items have a value ID of -1 because there's nothing to join onto in the codebook, which we're going to look at now. So here's the codebook, and as I mentioned earlier, there's loads of tables, loads of columns in here. But the first two are always this variable ID and value ID. So that will then correspond to our other fact responses table. What I've then got in here is a column which has got the question text in full. Over here, I've actually got question text short because sometimes it's just annoying to have the full question text, but it's useful to still have it. So by having those two columns, you can then choose which one you use within your study. And then we've got an option label. So this is what each of those items mean. So there's a question here about, let's do an easy one. Do you take it in English or Spanish? And so the option labels are English and Espanol. The next item I've got here is option label group. And as you can see, this is where I started to group some of those answers together because it's kind of useful. So for this study, they asked a 4 scale. So you've got excellent, good, only, fair, and poor. I wanted to put the 2 positive answers together, and I want to put the 2 negative answers together, just so it makes the analysis a little bit easier. So by doing it in here, in this extra column, you can dictate exactly what groupings you have. If we scroll down a bit, so we've got one about frequency here. I wanted to group the daily ones and several times a week together, so that I could do that. There was a question about how many books do you read a year, and so I can then define my own groupings and not be dictated by how it's grouped within Tableau. I mean, you can just go to your heart's content, really. You can add more detail in. And one which I find quite useful, which I haven't put in here, is actually putting a color column in, because sometimes a scale, red is good, green is bad. It could be whichever way around you want it. And sometimes it's not immediately obvious. But also you want to have consistent coloring within your dashboard. So if you have a color column in here, then you can associate that within your dashboard. Sadly, you can't link the hex numbers to actually display the color that you put in there, but that's another story. Fab. And then finally, just looking at the dim respondent table. Again, we'll ignore the survey load question. We've got the respondent ID, and then these are the filters which I've chosen to have. And then we've got the weighting in there as well. Okay, hopefully I haven't lost you all completely. Are we all still fine? Good, good. I've got a few thumbs up. People with their videos off, hopefully are not crying behind their screen. Fab. So what I'm going to then do is show you what it looks like in Tableau. Yeah, I completely agree, Sarah. We do need to update that one. Okay, so here I've got my MPORS survey. So as I mentioned, this is I've made it public, and you can download the workbook from there, from my Tableau public thing. Okay, so let's look at the Data Explorer. Now, just a heads up, I've gone for function, not prettiness in this. So I'm trying to get across the importance of the data layer, not the importance of how to make the data visualization look pretty. If you want to download this workbook and then make it pretty, I 100% welcome it. It'd be really good. But that's not what I've tried to do in here. What I've wanted to do in this dashboard is give you access to every single question, be able to cross tab by every single question, and be able to filter by every single question, just because we've got that data layer in the right shape. But before I get right into the detail of how that works, I should really show you what it looks like in the data source. So as hopefully these terms won't look too scary, but we've got the fact responses, which we've talked about. We've got the DIM codebook, and we've got the DIM respondent. We've also got another one here, but I'll talk about that one in a moment. These are then joined in terms of the relationship. So the one respondent is joined to one response. So what's the best way of showing this? Again, ignore this survey load part for the moment, but I'm just joining. There's many respondents in the fact responses and only one in here. So optimizing these kind of relationships makes your dashboard go a little bit faster. Then we've got the DIM codebook. So here we're linking on the variable ID and we're linking on the value ID. Again, ignore this survey load thing for now. And here we've got a many-to-one relationship again. Okay. So let's show you how the dashboard is working. So what I've done in this dashboard is, I suppose the guts of it is on this side here. So this is every single question. So I put in that question grouping here. So if we remember our Excel spreadsheet, that's all defined by this column. So what goes in the demographics is defined in there. So these are all my demographic questions, and I can choose which one I want to do. So I'm hovering over here and I want to analyze the type of community. And so by clicking on here, it will then update this to show my types of community in here. I'm actually going to make this a little bit wider because I'm going to run out of space. So that's all nice. There's all the questions here. If we want to do this one, this is website or app usage. Oh, that's not worked. Don't look at that one. Okay, come on. Let's come back here. Okay, so what you can also do with this dashboard is to use another question as a break. So let's use age as a break here. And then it will flip the answer options going across the top. So what it's also doing here is significance testing. So it's blue if it's significantly higher, it's gray if it's not significant, it's red if it's significantly lower. The vertical bar is the all sample for what we've got in there. And if we hover over that, it will tell us all the detail. So what we can actually do here is actually do it for every single question within the data set, which is quite cool. Then I also wanted to do some filtering. So let's do some filtering here. So you can see some of these have got a little filter next to them, and you can set them as the first or second filter. Now, what does that mean? Here I've got this little hidden section which has highlighted the filters that we've got. So if I want to filter this dashboard by the urban and suburbans, then it's filtered the dashboard by the urbans and suburbans now. And then if I hide that away, it's just put a little detail at the top to tell me what I'm actually looking at. So this is kind of pulled our data model all together and created this way of analyzing everything by everything. Fab. So one of the little advantages of the way that that data model is working is that because we're using the relationships and we've taken the things like weight into the dim respondent table, is that if we were to actually just build up the questions now, so here's all my question IDs, and then here's all the short text, and then here are my different option labels for each one. Age is massive. Let's just look at adults for now. If I then go down to my dim respondent table, I can just throw in the weighting variable, and it's doing almost like because of the way it's defined, one per respondent. So you're not duplicating respondents based on how many things you've got. So you've got the weighted counts straight away, and then very quickly you can do your percentage of total, and then you've got your percentage counts if that's the way you want to work it. Then with the way that we've got the respondents in the the filters in here, we can drag these in too, and very quickly you've got those cuts of the different dimensions within your filters, which is all very good. So one of the things which I was then struggling with was, well, what about those multi-select questions where you want to it's not quite the same as a single select question because you've got different bases going along the top. So I was able to extend the data model to allow that in without having to kind of make your data model crazy, to be honest. I think the way that it's currently recommended within the just so method is that you duplicate loads of rows, which is like, that's going to be crazy. And again, with my 114,000 respondents, that's really not going to happen. So what I've done is that I created this new table, and let's go to the Excel to have a look at it. And it's called dim respondent multi-filter. So here we've got a one row per respondent, but also per multi-select question. So here I've got, if I just filter on a person, I've got all of their answers for the multi-select questions in here, and all their answers. And what's a little bit different to the fact responses table is that I also pulled in what these questions actually mean. Again, just to make my life easier. If you work in SQL, you'd know just create this as a view, which link to those other two tables together to create this one. So then by joining that to my data model, so let's come back out of here, go up here. So that's what this table's for. I'm linking that just on the respondent ID. So then, if I then come to my sheet, which I had earlier, let's get rid of division. Here's my multi-filter. So let's put my question text short in here. Let's then put the multi-question options in there. And then each one has a yes, no, or maybe. So then here we've got cross-tabbing for a multi-select question. So in reality, you'll probably get rid of the yes. You'll only show the yeses, and you'll probably only show one of these at a time. But you've now got the ability, quite quickly, without doing anything too crazy, the ability to do a multi-select cross-tab, which is quite cool. So I think if I then flip back to our presentation, let's skip through this. So this is where I'm just coming back to the model that we had in our presentation. This is where you can just add in extra layers without complicating the existing model. So everything else will still work. You don't have to think about extra rows of data kind of messing all the other calculations up. And so you can extend it quite quickly and easily. The other thing that you can do is extend this to multiple surveys quite quickly. So I kept on skipping past this extra column which I had in there, which was the survey ID. But by simply adding a survey ID to each one of these tables, you can then have multi-surveys in one table. What's quite nice and almost quite purposeful in the way that I've designed this is that the majority of the tables, the majority of the columns are completely independent of the survey. The only place where that differs is in your dim respondents table, depending on your filters. But all of these are exactly the same. So actually you could stack up very different surveys on top of each other, all within the same data model, all without having to complicate things too much. So if we come back to the Steve Wexler just so approach, where we had the respondent IDs and the filters here, the weightings and the question types. Actually, this is not too far away from what we've had before. So if you've got existing processes for creating the just so method in your preferred kind of Tableau prep or whatever, it's not actually that far different from what we've got now. So you've got the dim respondents section here. You've then got the dim codebook section here. And then your fact responses section is here. So then just thinking about the future. So considerations that we need to have. So optimizing Tableau and the survey data model. Now, when you've got massive data sets, so my fact responses table for that other study I was talking about, it's got 41 million rows of data in it. And when I typically used level of detail calculations rather than table calculations, and if you have level of detail calculations which stretch over relationships, it can get really quite slow. So sometimes you have to move things around, but that's the kind of fine-tuning optimization that you do once you've got your dashboard ready. So there's a little bit of thought that needs to go into that part if you're working with really big data sets or it's starting to slow down. The other thing which we need to consider, I think, as a group, is if we're going to adopt this kind of style of having this semantic layer for survey data, is having a common naming convention. So as I mentioned before, the survey model is now actually fairly generic, which means if we use the same naming conventions, we can copy and paste much easier between survey dashboards. So like I said, I've not really gone to town with the data viz on this one, but wouldn't it be great if we took some of the really great examples of analyzing survey data, but use the same model? So then we can just chop and change across all the different ones and give ourselves shortcuts and improve upon what we've already got. Other considerations, could we build Tableau accelerators? So could we turn that data explorer that I just showed you into a accelerator? So all you need to do is get your data in that format. Boom, you've got a way of analyzing every question in your survey without doing too much. And then finally, other consideration is can we make the instructions for creating that survey data model easier? So I think that's everything I wanted to talk to you about, but I'm open to questions if you have any.
Thanks, Andrew. It's pretty slick.
Cool.
I have many questions, but I'll pull a few from the chat here first. Colin asked, where does the SIG testing live in the data architecture?
That's done in real time. So let me show you the in here. Okay. So I've got the SIG test formula here. That's actually using this function. So that's working out my z-score. I then use the result of that to create the sig test group, which is the significantly higher or significantly lower by comparing that z-score. I can see some of you getting very close to your screens. So that's that part, and annoyingly you can't show two things at the same time. And then that's working out the z-score. So yeah, it's done in real time, which means it adapts to all your filters that you're applying.
Yep, makes sense. So how do you, and I think this was in your maybe your considerations, but well, how do you get the data the way you have it? Because you're going straight from Excel to Tableau, right? So like I use Tableau Prep, but I know like Steve's method, he has some sort of intermediary, a shaping tool. He has, and I think he uses one or two others. But so you kind of, I'm assuming you're not typing out by hand hundreds of thousands of rows.
Correct. So what I've been doing and planning to kind of launch in a beta version is a way of doing this. I've had to move away from Tableau Prep. I've had to move away from the other ones, just because I can't get them to work every time. I've had examples where column headers have over 128 characters, which is the limit for Tableau Prep, which then means you cut off a load of the question text. I mean, it's the stupidity of the survey platforms which have made me go this other route. So I've done it all in Python, and then I convert that into a Postgres database. In the case for this example, which I've shown you here, I've then exported those tables which I've created and put them into the Excel. So it's a standalone, separate thing. But by doing it separately into Python, I'm then starting to create API connections to Decipher, to Qualtrics, which then convert the data into the format that we need to get this survey model, and then it's ready to go. And then there's lots of things in survey data which I haven't talked about here. So where you have loops within data as well. So if you're doing a brand study, you ask what are the top 3 things that you've used in the last week or something, and then that's dynamically changing. So I built that kind of feature into the survey data model as well. So like I said, I'm hoping to release that very soon, but in the meantime you can just hopefully adapt almost the process of the just so to get it into that format.
Yep. Any other questions?
One member liked the Data Explorer section, Andrew, and are you going to be able to share this this workbook with us? And if so, where and how shall we share it?
Where's my Tableau? It's on my Tableau project.
Great.
I was in 2 minds whether to share it, but I'm doing it for the good of the world, because like I say, I think if we can get this right, it will allow us to take a lot more shortcuts. So if you find me on Tableau Public, I'll put this link in the chat. You can download it. There was a bug in it, so I'm going to fix that. So maybe check it tomorrow. Live demos are. Where are we? Just looking for it.
Thank you so much for that, Andrew.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Like I say, I just want to move things forward. And if we're still getting stuck on actually managing data, then it's not a good place to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like you've hit on so many issues that I could for sure relate to. Yeah, and this is like the dream. The way you had it set up, and on my mind, I'm always thinking like it's similar things that you've I mean, trying to like have some sort of standardized process is like it's impossible, which you are getting closer to possible now. It looks like, but yeah, that's always like, I've thought about like, oh, how do I make some sort of like tool or process, and I do it to the extent that I can, but then inevitably, there's something breaks it.
Yeah, there's so much variation, which is the real struggle. So, like I said, the different survey platforms doing different things in different ways. I typically use SPSS files because it has the metadata and the raw data connected together. But different platforms export the SPSS files in different ways. It's such a nightmare, to be honest. And so I thought, well, if I can write separate libraries to convert Decipher's way or Qualtrics's way or SurveyMonkey's way, which just means that we don't have to keep doing it every single time in different ways, then that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everything that you're doing, and I look forward to digging around a little more. And yeah, I think if you could get it to a point where it's like you have that sort of like, okay, like the layman's version, sort of okay, these are the steps you need to take, and even if it's like how to run a Python script, I feel like that would be super useful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm sharing today because I just want to make this better, and so maybe we have a separate Slack thing on it for making it work. I'm really up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask maybe more newer Tableau users. There was a lot here, so please don't feel, in any way. Well, it can be very overwhelming. There was a lot of content here. Thank you, Andrew. Kind of packaged it up into very concise presentation. But yeah, if you're feeling overwhelmed, that would be natural because there were a lot of concepts here in data preparation and data visualization, right? So take it one step at a time and just ask questions, join our Slack. I think this group is very open to answering and pointing people in the direction. Now you know maybe what you don't know, right? To loop back on how Andrew started, we all know maybe something that we don't know, which is great. It's better than not knowing what you don't know, right?
Very good.
Absolutely. Yeah. I look forward to ongoing conversations on this topic. I think this is kind of scratching the surface and showing that okay, it's possible. Like there's a way, and somebody's thinking through it. being Andrew, and maybe there's hope. I think as well. Getting out of it.
That sounds good.
So
I'm going to have to drop off and then I'll rejoin because my wife's going to be teaching music behind me in a moment, and I don't think any of you want to hear the violin played by a 12-year-old. So I'll
all right. Thanks,
leave and rejoin.
Catch you in a minute.
Thanks, guys.
And with that, let's turn it over to Sarah for our next presentation on Tableau Tables.
Great. Okay, thanks, Josh. Let me just get my setup here. Perfect. And I'll share my screen. Okay, so you should now be seeing my slide deck. Hopefully that's all good. Great. So today I'm going to share just a quick demo on one of Tableau's newest features with the latest release, the 2024.3 release that came out earlier this fall. They introduced a Viz extension called Tableau Table. And Viz extensions are basically a way that you can extend the functionality of Tableau. You can think of it kind of as like a pre-built, out-of-the-box solution that can kind of speed up your build and take away some of the headaches that might come along with building something that looks like this. So on the screen here, I have for you an example of a sample table that I built using the Viz extension. And you can see that, you know, there's some lovely formatting here, and it's very user-friendly. By comparison, the traditional or the old way of building a table in Tableau, you know, might involve bringing your dimensions onto your rows shelf and then using measure names and measure values to put all your measures on the measure values shelf. And that gives you a, you know, pretty standard looking table. You would have, you know, your dimensions are all grouped here on the left side of your sheet in the headers. And then, you know, your measures are all grouped on the right side. And this is fine. This is you know, very usable. And in fact, I get a lot of requests from end users to include a table as part of the dashboard. I think end users find them useful for building trust. You know, they want to see the row level detail. They want to make sure the numbers are as they're to be expected. And there's a lot of cases where the end user actually wants to be able to download this row level detail and have a spreadsheet where they can actually manipulate the data and perform their own data analysis. And so it's pretty common to get a request for a table like this. And when you do that and you publish it to, say, Tableau Cloud or Tableau Server, in order to download it, the end user needs a little bit of training. You need to walk them through. There's a few different steps. You have to be able to access the download menu and have those permissions. And then once you select crosstab, there's a few different things they need to do. They need to find the correct sheet to download. They need to select the correct format and that sort of thing. So it's a little cumbersome doing this the old way. So with this new Viz extension, Tableau has addressed some of these headaches and just made, you know, the speed to insight or the speed to that text table a little bit faster here. So this is the example of the text table built using the Viz extension, the new way. And you can see here, I do have my dimensions and I have my measures mixed in with my dimensions based on the logical order that the end user wanted to see these columns in. And so already we have some additional flexibility here. We're not locked into having all of our dimensions on the left and all of our measures on the right. And we have the option of adding an export to Excel download button, which is probably the smallest button in the history of dashboard buttons, but nevertheless, it's there. And once you know it's there, it's pretty exciting. You just want to go ahead and press it and instantly get your download. So on the next few slides, I'm just going to walk you through the steps you would go to build out this table using the Viz extension. So what you would want to do in Tableau Desktop or in Tableau Cloud Web Authoring, you would go to a new sheet and go to your Marks card, a drop-down menu, and click on the Add extension at the bottom there. And when you do that, a dialog box opens up and you can go ahead and search for Tableau Table. You can also find it by clicking on this box, Built by Tableau. This is one of the Viz extensions that has been built by Tableau, and it is free and included with Tableau Desktop and that latest release of Tableau. So you go ahead and select Tableau Table, and right away they give you this prompt on how to get started. And you'll notice what the instructions here tell us, put all of your dimensions and your measures on the detail card. So we're not using rows and columns here. We're just simply bringing in all of the fields that we want in our table, and we're dropping them right here on the detail card. And you'll notice the order that they're placed in here from top to bottom gives me my left to right column arrangement. So my first item here is my order ID, and it's on the left, and then all the way to my last one, and it's on the right. And again, you'll see my dimensions and measures are mixed in together. So you bring them in the order that you want. And then you can get right to custom formatting, and it's very easy within a few clicks. Customize your tables. One of the things that I love right out of the box here, or right out of the gate, is you can rename your column headers so that they're more user friendly. So I went ahead and clicked on the drop down menu for my sum sales, and I renamed it to be order amount, so it's more user friendly. You can also apply some formatting to the appearance of the columns. So for my days to ship, I turned it, instead of it just being a number, I added the data bar. So there's a bar length that goes along with that number. You can also add some conditional formatting based on a rule. So for order amount, I've added a rule that says anytime it's greater than or equal to 100, fill in that cell with a green color so we can draw our attention to that. Again, with just a few clicks, and we've got it. In the old way, there'd be some hacking involved here, you know, using separate color legends for your measures and whatnot. And then in terms of across the entire table, you can do some global formatting. So you can show the toolbar across the top. You can add column filters to every column. You can show a search bar that allows you to type in a keyword and search the entire table. You can show tooltips, and this is pretty neat because with the old way, tooltips only appear on the measures, but with this new Viz extension, when you hover over dimension, the tooltip also appears. And then that last option there, you can select to add that Show Excel Download button. And when you do that, when you press that Excel download button, this is what you get. And you'll notice one of the beautiful things is it retains the formatting. So in Excel, if you had those color formatting applied, a rule, conditional formatting, you'll see it in your Excel download. One thing it doesn't carry over is the data bars. So that in Excel is just the number value, which probably makes the most sense. And then I also just wanted to point out quickly the filter placement. So in the global formatting, if you say, yes, show column filters, they put the filter right here with the column header. So instead of having the filter box somewhere else on your dashboard, it's right there. So what I'd like to do is just show you real quick in Tableau Desktop. I'll just switch over to Tableau Desktop now. So you should be seeing my Tableau Desktop, and here I have my sheet built out with all of my dimensions and measures. You can easily adjust your column width by just dragging the individual column, which is a lot easier than a traditional table. And then when you hover, notice I'm hovering over a dimension, you see your tooltip there as well. And then as it looks when it's published on Tableau Cloud, you can see you've got that same functionality here as well. And when you press the download button or the export to Excel, it's literally one click and you get your spreadsheet as so. Ta-da! Just a few clicks. It really is wonderful. Any questions or any additional information I can provide?
Sarah, I was curious if there's any kind of drill down hierarchy that is possible to set up, if you know.
I haven't played around with that feature. I think let's see, if we brought in something that had a hierarchy, let's see what would happen. So if I brought in category and I expand it out, it adds it as another column. But once I'm here and I'm hovering, I don't see the ability to expand out. There is column sorting, which is very similar to a traditional table. And then the search function simply highlights the keyword that you're looking for. If I go ahead and add in the column filters here, that brings them all together as such. But great question about the drill down. It doesn't appear to carry over into your actual table.
Mhm.
Cheryl had a question, and we'll get to Jorge next. Do you know if it's possible to have totals? She says that they're no longer available, what she noticed.
Yeah, I haven't come up with a solution for that. Let's see if we...
Nothing happens.
Nothing happens. Yeah. So that's definitely a limitation. I suppose you could export it out to Excel and do your totals there. But then that takes your end user away from your Tableau dashboard.
Yep. Jorge, you had a question?
Yeah, well, yeah, similar observations. We were excited when this was released. My boss is not a Tableau person, so he wanted to have Excel tables too. So the three things that stopped me from using this in production. The first one is the totals that you just spoke about. The second thing is, I don't know if it exists, and I haven't managed to use it. For example, if you want to filter by order amount between 50 and 75, can you set up the amounts there? Because you can move the slider, but you don't see what you're filtering.
Yeah, I find this to be quite limiting. Our options for the filter here. You could potentially bring in the order amount filter to your filter shelf and show it as like a traditional filter that might address it.
Yeah.
But not using this one here.
Okay, so but they can be combined. I can put the order amount there, and then I can use it for filter for this table, right?
You could.
That's a kind of a workaround. Yeah.
No workaround there. Yeah, maybe one or the other. Having both might be confusing. But
and the third thing was, can you do multi-select filters? I mean, for example, if you want to select more than one subcategory at the same time from that filter, can you do it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a single select.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely limited functionality with the with adding those filters there at the top.
Thanks.
Andrew asked, can you drive dashboard actions from the table?
You can. Yes, that is possible.
Any limitations or quirks in doing that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. I'll play around more with that though, and follow up with you.
That was me. I was just curious.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Just you can do whatever you want, or
yeah.
Any other questions?
I see one there from Oscar. If I use the table on desktop and then export it to cloud, will work in cloud? Yes, this example here is the workbook has been published to Tableau Cloud. So hopefully that answers your question.
Looks like it works like any other.
Like any other, yeah.
You upload to cloud, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, just publish it to cloud. This I put on a dashboard and published it that way.
I think that's because it's a Tableau extension, right? I think the other extensions maybe you can't.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it is not possible yet to publish it to Tableau Public. There's talk around that possibly being, in the future, but at this time you can't publish it to Tableau Public.
You would think that they could do that.
Right? Yeah.
Clearly, it's working. You can upload it on cloud.
And you'd think they'd want that as well, because it's a great way to share it.
Yeah. Any other questions for Sarah? Yeah, this is like finally this is like a response to all those stakeholders who have to stay in Excel, or asking you, and so then you try to recreate it, and you got all the conditional formatting and all this extra stuff that you're like, why did I use Tableau in the first place?
Yes, I know. They're like, well, thank you for the table. Can you make it look like Excel now, please?
And now we can. Well, kind of up at the end of the meeting, usually we kind of have like breakouts. Open up the floor here with us all together and see if there's anything else. Let me see. Do we have any prompts for our?
Yeah, for our breakout rooms, I think we were just going to talk about Andrew's presentation and any headaches with survey data or things like that, but we are a little bit short on time, so it might be best to just stay together instead of doing the breakout.
Any other? What did you guys think about Andrew's presentation? I was like I feel like it's something that will be that I want to kind of look into more. I think like the practical element is kind of what's maybe what I'm looking for, as the next step. It's like, okay, well, this all makes sense now. How do I do it? Like Steve has his, like guide. I know you mentioned that, Andrew, but I think that's kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing at some point.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to help. As mentioned, I'll go on Slack over the next couple of weeks. I haven't been on it for a while, but yeah, feel free to ask questions on there.
Any other reactions?
I have to say, I think I kind of stumbled onto something similar of having like, I think I called it metadata table. And over there, it also included things like, because it's a survey that happened every year, but every year it was different. It was also like, am I using this question this year? Am I not using the question this year? And a problem that could arise, I think, is when they change the text of the question itself, and when they change the text of the answers, and when they change adding new options. So it grows and grows. But yeah, I needed that. I needed something like that was outside of the main data table to help me organize things and analyze things. But it wasn't that normalized, I would say, but definitely necessary.
Yeah, I've come across it quite a few times where they've changed the questions, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly. And so what I quite like about that codebook section, and because it goes down to the individual options, is that it gives you that granularity to actually say what is the same and what isn't. Sometimes I've added an extra column, which is almost like the final column, if that makes sense. So it's how you then aggregate all the previous surveys where the data's options have maybe changed slightly or something like that, but without having to change the underlying raw data about what the variable option was. So then you can still even display it in the tooltips. We've changed this option in 2023 survey to make it align with 2024. So you can add almost those specific comments, and then so as you hover over, it will appear.
But I think no one would look at those other than us ever. Even though, you always offer it to the users, but they don't drill down and like, oh, what happened and blah, blah, blah. They want very much an answer.
One of the other things which I've done with that model is that when you get that data model, and because, as I mentioned, you try and put as much as the data, as much as the logic in the data model, I've spun off separate dashboards which almost act as quality check dashboards, because Tableau is really good at spotting problems and visually, and so you can then see if there are any typo errors, and if you're expecting 40 questions and there's 41, then you can quickly see that. And so I've created QC dashboards that use the same underlying data model as your final dashboard. And so you can check those things, which is especially important if you've got live data coming through.
Well, we'll have a few minutes left, and we promised a swag giveaway. So, I don't know if I quickly pull this up. Don't necessarily need to have it on the screen, but just to make it official, we're doing a swag giveaway. So you get your hands on your keyboards, and first person to answer this question correctly will get the swag. And the question is, Sarah, if you have it noted.
Yes. Do you want to advance to the next slide and it'll be there?
Oh, okay. You know what? I downloaded these two.
Oh, are you using the downloaded one? Okay, no problem. I just think it might be easier if it is on the screen.
Yes.
One moment. We'll pull it up. I have it right here. Oh, I thought I had it right here. Now I have it. Okay, hold on.
Everybody's ready for sure now.
Yeah, now we're really ready.
Have your attention.
Okay, so be the first person to correctly answer the question in the chat. Here we go. During Andrew's presentation, there was a quote. Who was it by? "2002 was the date. I believe that's correct. And the person that was quoted? Yes, Donald Rumsfeld. That's right. That's correct, Anat. Congratulations. Excellent. Perfect. Anat, I will follow up with you and make sure that gift card gets sent out to you. Congratulations. And that concludes our tug call. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Sarah, for presenting.
Okay.
Thank you. It was a great call. Really enjoyed it.